said, today we're going to die here together. I said, all of you die here together. I arrived in Full Sutton. I had a friend of mine there. So I had a couple of friends on the wing, but on the weekend, on the other wing, there was a couple of the Manchester guys who we didn't really get on with, because one of them had stabbed a friend of mine, and this was a long running feud. They was tasty guys, and they was very strong over there. So straight away when they knew we would come and all that, they said, right, to get out on the compound at the weekend, because at the weekend on the big yard, this was the one opportunity at the weekend where all the wings could associate. It's a big, massive field with a big tower, right? And you'd be left out there. So I'm with my friend there. There was two guys, I remember, right? And they knew, Londoners, they knew we had to go out there at the weekend, because I said to them, we got to go out there in front of these lot at the weekend, all right? Otherwise they're going to come, they're going to be picking us off. We have to front it, right? But one of them on that morning, we went to his cell, and he made out I was sleeping in bed, and he didn't come out. Didn't want to come out and face it. The other guy, a friend of mine at that time, after giving him his dues, he come out with me. So both of us went out there, 2 knives. We had the long coats again, lifers coats, so we could hide everything. And I remember we got loads of magazines, and we split the magazines in the middle, and we put them under our shirt, all round our thing, and stuck them down, right? To protect us from the stab wounds, right? So we went out, the pair of us, onto the compound, and as we're walking around the big length of the field watching them, we can see them all in the recess there. There's about 5 of them there, right? About 5 of them come out, and they see us, we see them. We know it's going to go off. There's no screws or officers going to come and help you by the time they say, because all the doors are locked and be over by the time they would come anyway. So it ain't about that. We're not worried about them. This is fronting it, do or die. So we watched them for a little while, and then they all went inside, right? So I said to my pal, I said, this is the time now, let's go down there, because we want to get them inside, right? So we went down there, and we went in there. When you went into this little place, you had a changing room place over here, but then you had the toilets here, and there was about five little cubicles in there, toilets, and some sinks and other stuff. And we walked in there. As soon as we walked in there, I took the knives out, 2 knives, like both of us, because we know that they were in there, and I couldn't see them at the start, right? And then we went in there, and they all come out of there, out of the recesses, slammed the doors open and all that, and they all had the knives and this and that, and you could see they was all tooled up, right? So they said, the main one of them come out and went, Stephen Gillen, use it then, use it. I said, and this was the moment, you see, this is the moment in these kind of situations. So I just went right to the front of them. I said, you see these? I said, I don't give a shit. I said, today we're going to die here together. I said, all of we fucking die here together. But in that moment, they see that you're serious, and it can go either way. But in that way, they see, I think that that was the spell that broke it, because they kind of see, well, this is the time, maybe now's not the time. So, tried to spin it and laugh then, laugh and said, I see, okay then, we're gonna leave it today, we're gonna leave it today, Stephen Gillen. I see you come with your big friend and all that. No worries. For us, it was about fronting it. It was about showing them, look, you want to come to us, we're not gonna mess around with you, because that's the only defense that we have. If we hadn't have done that, they would have overrun us, they would have plotted us up, and they would have picked us off one by one. That's a great example of what has to be done in that life. It's not something I wanted to do. Do I feel fear? Yes, I feel fear. But I'm wise, and I know that there's more fear and there's more threat to my life by not fronting stuff like that. I'll give you another story that happened in Whitemoor Prison in the middle 90s. There was a lot of violence with the staff. It was a place where the worst of the worst was sent. It was always boiling, just with violence, just under the surface. On this day, there was a bit of violence on one of the spurs there. They lost control of the incident and they ran. Because they knew that they didn't have the backup, anything could have happened to them. They could have been stabbed, they certainly could have been hurt or even killed. They ran, locked the gates in the middle. All of a sudden, a crazy riot broke out. People started smashing the cells. You know, a lot of guys was already out in association, so the doors was open. There wasn't that many people banged up. They was taking the end of the metal beds to use that as bats, smashing the sinks, smashing the toilets. People tried to get up in the roof and take down the roof. Everything was being smashed in there. They was taunting the staff. Of course, all the CNR, all the Mufti squad come and they congregated, and there was loads of them with the shields and the helmets and all this stuff outside in the hub. All the prisoners, we was goading them. A lot of people was coming out. There was a lot of shouting, a lot of abuse, a lot of swearing. All of a sudden, everything in there was cameraed, guys. So people started putting on balaclavas because they knew how serious this was getting. And they knew there was going to be serious harm or charges after, so people didn't want to get recognised. They just left us. The staff, they had lost control of the spur and the prison, and it was a full-scale riot. A lot of old scores of people who wasn't getting on was sorted out in that time. It was mob rule completely. In them prisons, guys, you have green blankets, which are like woolen, really, really poisonous. And someone was throwing loads of the blankets and bedding out onto the netting where all the wood was, and someone set it alight. This thick, dark smoke became choking really, really quickly. And I have to tell you guys, by now the officers, what they was doing after hours and hours of this violence going on, is they had the Mufti and they was using snatch squads. When a prisoner would get close to them, they'd try and get him quickly and pull him back and throw him back to the rest, where he was running the gauntlet of batons, punches and kicks. When someone set a light to all the bedding and the blankets, the thick poisonous smoke was choking us. And at that time, my life was really in danger.
Maybe this is a naive question, but from somebody outside looking in, aren't the guards meant to be protecting the inmates?
You would say that, some screws, some guards, they're there, don't get me wrong, just to pay the bills, do their work, go home to their families. But there's a high percentage there, they abuse their power, they're very sadistic, malicious. I had one such deadly enemy, and we was both the same, we was from different fractions. And because the screws knew that we had a big problem with each other, they put us both on the segregation exercise yard together at the same time. And this never happens. You're usually out there alone anyway. So they put us out there, to kill each other, right, and have sport out of it. But luckily on that day, right, I went up to the other guy. He seen me, I see him. So we went up and we was like, and I said, you know what? I said, we're going to leave it this time, right? So, we're going to leave it this time, right? Because they've set this up, yeah? So we walked around that way, and I walked around that way, and I remember we watched each other all the way around, and it felt like we was only out there half an hour. It felt like 5 hours we was out there. We were so aware of each other, walking around with a space between us in that yard, knowing that maybe one of us would get a second notion and say, fuck this, what? It's on now, I don't give a shit. Maybe we're not going to catch each other again. So that was another experience.